States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. I think something I've neglected to say, we still have the agendas as you walk in on the right side over here on your left, so grab one of those if you'd like to follow along. Katie, could I have roll call for attendance, please?
Yes, Councilperson Bentley.
Here.
Bruns.
Here.
Flynn.
Here.
Morrissey.
Here.
Soha.
Present.
Stuchel.
Here.
Wolfram.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Here.
8-0, all present.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda from council or staff? Councilman Bruns.
Yeah, I noticed letter I on the consent agenda, the EDC wayfinding signs purchase. Looks to me like a purchase of $25,000, or more precisely $24,792. And I would rather have that be in new business personally than in the consent agenda, so we can talk about it and vote on its own merits.
Okay, in the past, we've talked about items over a certain dollar amount being in the business agenda. Do you remember what we established the threshold as? Because I noticed the same thing for BPU, that they're over, $100,000, I think, in one case. Yes, David.
The reason that is in the consent agenda is because EDC has its own funds. And so while we bring these forward, the council isn't necessarily approving their purchase because they're their own operating revenues.
Same with BPU then, I'm assuming.
BPU is slightly different because they're part of the city, but EDC is like Tifa. The council doesn't necessarily approve Tifa's purchases unless it's a contract that involves the city. But the BPUs, they were put on the consent agenda because they go through the BPU board, and that's how the previous mayor wanted them. We put them there because they went through the BPU board and were vetted there.
So with respect to the EDC, do we have oversight over this expenditure or any expenditure?
No.
What does it mean by city council authorize the finance department to process payment then?
Because the finance department cuts all the checks because they're all funds within the city. And so this is just basically authorizing the finance department to cut the check or to pay for the item when the invoice comes.
Okay. So it sounds like we could stop them from spending the money then. Hey, Councilman Bentley.
No, that's what I was gonna ask. What happens if council didn't authorize that?
Tom, do you have an answer to that? EDC doesn't.
No, I don't have an answer to that other than their funds are accounted for under the city's accounting system, but they are the EDC's funds, just like TIFA's funds or TIFA's funds. It's an economic development corporation, so it's a separate entity from the city.
Councilman Bentley, yes.
Yeah, so I have no particular issue with this signage, I guess, but I guess I resent being asked to authorize things that I don't have a decision about. It doesn't seem right.
Did we have a motion?
Well, sure, okay, then I motion to move consent agenda letter I, EDC wayfinding signs purchase to new business letter F.
Second.
Okay. Motion on the floor from Councilman Bruns, seconded by Councilman Bentley to move letter I under the consent agenda to letter F under new business. Any? A, B, C, D, E, F. that right, Councilman Bruns? Oh.
Unless something has been added.
Yeah, we'll do this. That's odd. Councilman Morrissey only has up to letter H on his packet. Was something added after Thursday?
The public safety minutes were added.
The public safety minutes, okay, so
Yes.
missing letter
There was a
F.
subsequent, update sent out, Friday morning.
Okay, so I don't think you're missing anything terribly substantial. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, roll call vote, Katie?
Alrighty, Councilmember Bruns,
Yes.
Flynn,
No.
Morrissey, Soha,
No.
Stuchel,
No.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
Yes.
and Councilperson Bentley.
Yes.
4 to 4.
4 to 4, did someone not vote? Oh, there's only 8 of us.
Yeah.
We've discussed this in the past, yes. Okay, the consent agenda remains as it is. Do we have any other, no, we're still on the agenda, excuse me. The agenda remains as it is. Do we have any other changes or additions?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda items as presented.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Soha to approve the agenda as submitted. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Roll call vote, Katie?
Councilperson Flynn,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Soha,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley,
Yes.
and Bruns.
No.
7-1 passes.
Thank you, Katie. We have an agenda. Public comments on agenda items. The podium is open. Please restrain your comments to items that appear on the agenda only. Hi, Shannon.
Hello, how are you guys? I was wondering, I thought last meeting you guys said you were gonna put the road diet, you guys were gonna discuss it to put a date for a public meeting? Shouldn't that be under old business? It's not even on the agenda, it said a date for the road diet public discussion. I did watch it online, and so, I thought they were gonna have another one, I thought that was here. And then also on their new business, it says, the SAD policies and procedures updates. I read the whole thing, but there was no highlight to tell me what was updated, what was changed. So how do you guys know what was changed from the previous one to this one? So it's gonna be really hard to approve something that you don't know what changes were made.
Thank you, Shannon.
Scott Sessions, 102 Cold Springs Circle. I am here in support of Penny Swan and her appointment for the officers' compensation. Penny has in the past served on the ZBA board, the election commission, and the planning commission, as well as being a strong active member of our community. She has the knowledge, she has the assertiveness, and the understanding of what it takes to fulfill the position and to serve on the officers' compensation. I ask that all of you on this Hillsdale City Council to vote in favor of the appointment of Penny Swan to the officers' compensation. Thank you, Scott Sessions.
Thank you, Mayor Sessions. Any further public comment? Thank you. I will close the podium, and we will move on to the consent agenda. I will not read it all, as my voice is already fragile. Any comments, questions for the consent agenda? Okay,
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
thank you. Motion on the floor from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Morrissey to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Any further discussion? I'm curious to know what the what exactly the council is doing with the authorizing of the payment, whether that's even necessary, or whether that should just go under communications as something that they've already done, I suppose. Okay.
Has it been purchased already, the signage?
No, this will be done this spring. So this is basically approving the pay it when they're done with it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We will move on to communications and petitions. Kim has included the board of review schedule. We have our 3 members. We still are missing an alternate, 2 alternates. If someone is willing to sign up for this is a very high commitment board for a few days. Is it March 11th and 12th this year? March 10th and 11th. There are 2 6-hour days, 9 to 3, and then 3 to 9 the next day. If you would be willing to fill out an alternate slip, that would be greatly appreciated, especially as people get sick this time of year. You learn a lot in that board, so we would greatly appreciate it. This is actually one thing that I wanted the local officers compensation committee to consider, whether there should be a per diem, since this is a board that you don't just come together for an hour. It's an all-day thing, so it's a pretty large commitment. Okay, anything you want to add on that, Kim? Okay, there will be taxpayer appeals on the 10th and the 11th.
I just have.
Yeah, Councilman Wolf.
How do we advertise this? Like, the average person may not have a clue that this is the board review position, so.
I believe it's been posted to Facebook. I think it's in the BPU newsletter.
Yes.
And then the other way is that if you go on the city website and you go to government and hit boards and committees, which is the first tab on the top left, it will come up all the vacancies for all city boards and commissions. Katie and Sam put this together so that it's very easy to find in one place. So yeah, I think we're using all the avenues that we have available, though our Facebook following isn't exactly.
And WCSR.
And WCSI. Okay, so we have multiple routes.
Our office has also been doing mailings out to residents. Right now we're mailing to people in Ward 3. But we've only been doing a few at a time, like a block at a time, in hopes that we get the positions filled here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kim. Oh, do you want to stay up here for letter B?
Let me grab my packet.
I asked Kim to put together a comparison of the city of Hillsdale's per capita expenditures from the general fund, as well as a report about the trends in taxable value in Hillsdale. It's very helpful to understand why Hillsdale's infrastructure is in the state that it's in. So I hope everyone had a chance to look at that. The second page in particular can be a bit confusing, so Kim, if you want to run through that and answer any questions council might have, that would be very helpful.
So that page was actually put together by Karen
Okay.
in finance. I didn't have access to the information from other cities. She was able to pull that information.
Kim, why don't you go over the second report, which was the one you prepared on the ad valorem tax rate and the sinking, or our investment in roads?
So we had actually done this once before, back when the fair committee was meeting, looking for alternative ways to fund our infrastructure repairs. And what we found was our taxable value for the city in 2008 was 162 million and some change. After the real estate market crashed in 2008 and going forward for several years, we did not recover back to those 2008 numbers until 2024. So our general fund has suffered immensely because of those losses in taxable value over the last 20 years almost. And then I also did some comparisons on what we collected in millage, specifically for street funding in the past, and then what we're currently collecting, just so you can see why we were falling so short in being able to maintain our streets adequately during that 20 years.
Could you explain the without election column, what that means?
So that is what was put into charter that we are allowed to collect. So without going to the vote of the people, we can collect 2.5 mils for regular street maintenance. That is for, snow plowing, normal, everyday maintenance items. We can also do a sinking fund or debt millage of up to 3 mils. And we did that from 2017 to 2020. Council wasn't entirely comfortable with doing it that way, so they decided to put it to a vote to the people, so it was a dedicated street millage, because as a sinking fund, it can be used for anything that the city might need to borrow money to pay for. So in 2021, we started doing the 3.5 mil dedicated street monies, and then a 0.5 mil leaf collection.
Very good. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, when I tell people we just recovered from the financial crisis, I think basically because of the Headley Amendment, right?
Proposal A.
Proposal A.
Yeah, the cap on taxable value.
The cap on taxable value. That's a little hard for them to understand. No, I'm not happy that our taxes are maxed out, but that is a large part of the reason there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Councilman Flynn.
Just for clarification though, when you look at the without election column again, if I read this correctly for 2024, $951,500 are available for streets.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is much more than the year before, than the year before, than the year before, but this also does not factor in that everything's gone up, that
Right.
supplies and
Right.
pieces, parts have gone up as well. So, do we know what kind of, like, have you been able to figure out, are we still at a range where we were, even though everything's been going up, or is inflation killing us more than we can?
Just like our household budgets, we're farther behind.
Okay.
Could you, well, you can't even really have an inflation adjusted column because road improvements have risen in cost so much more. But it might be interesting just to add an inflation adjusted column, even though road prices have basically doubled in the last, 5 or 6 years.
And the other item to factor in, so that's total city taxes available for the streets without election also does not factor in the Headley reductions to our millage rate. Because if our taxable value increases by more than the rate of inflation, unless it's for new construction, our millage rate gets cut permanently to counteract that, so that the city cannot collect more than what we would have, even though our property values are increasing.
Okay, any other questions for Kim? Any comments? Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, we have an update from our county commissioner, Doug Ingles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. A couple items tonight. Hillsdale County has hired a new emergency services director. His name is Jason Laudermilk. He began on February 1st. Jason is Woodbridge Township Fire Chief, and he'll be a good addition to the emergency services in our county. In front of the court, Director Shayla Arnold has retired. The current district court magistrate, Laura Ray, will be our new friend of the court director. Rachel Dockstader has been appointed as a criminal and civil magistrate for district court, so there are some changes both in the front of the court and district court. Hillsdale County is adapting our employee handbook and policies to meet requirements of the Earned Sick Time Act. Remember that 1 hour of paid leave for every 30 hours worked for each employee. Yes, is effective as of February 21, and the county is adapting its policies to meet the act. And a sign that spring is on the way. Frost laws will go into effect Monday, February 24th at 6 a.m. So that's my update for tonight. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question about Mr. Laudermilk. Is he going to have to resign as Woodbridge Township Fire
It's not a
Chief?
conflict, and I do not.
No, I just meant simply from this fact that
Yeah.
if he's here full-time in Hillsdale, Woodbridge Township is way over there.
Well, he lives over there, I think.
No, I know, I just didn't know if that would be a difficult time to get to a fire if he's.
So I don't know how he's gonna manage that. The question was asked, are they compatible offices, and the answer is yes. And time will answer that question. If he doesn't have time to do both, you know, he will be our emergency services director. So, I don't know what he's planning. He's still new, he started February 1. So, he's learning the role as we speak.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for the commissioner? Thank you, Commissioner Ingles, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mayor.
We don't have any introduction and adoption of ordinances or public hearings. We don't have any old business, so we will move on to new business, letter A, SAD policy and procedure update. So this originated from my concerns with the SAD policy. So to answer Shannon's questions, the big overview is I wanted to see if we could reduce the interest rate on the SAD payments, increase the time frame of the payment from 10 to the, I believe, the charter and statutory maximum of 15 years, and also to find a way to better proportion the benefits that the property gets from the improvement to the price that they pay for the improvement. So Kim or David, if you want to talk through that as well, please.
Sure, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As was mentioned, so Kim and I kind of, and then we brainstormed and kind of went through the current SAD policy and took those guidelines and to see if there's something we could do to make the policy more equitable or fair, and provide a little bit more offset for the resident. That being said, the current process is, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial, each lot is assessed the same amount, a maximum of $5,000 based on the cost. Some had felt that was not equitable because like an industrial lot might have 300 feet of frontage versus a residential lot, which could go down to 33 feet. And they were paying the same amount if they were in a particular district. So we took a look at that, and we came up with the recommendation that Kim and I made to the Public Service Committee, which was to change it from a per lot distribution to have some categories. The first would be residential. Residential would stay with a $5,000 cap. Commercial would go up to $10,000 cap, and then industrial would go up to a $15,000 cap to help offset some of those larger lots that we're paying for, some 300 feet or more in some of them. We also looked at the charter language in regards to the number of payments, and it does allow for up to 15 installments. So with the proposal you have in front of you states that unless every partial, annual installments, unless every partial share within the district is 5,000 or below, they would stay at the 10 years, but if they're over $5,000, then they would have up to the 15 years in which to make installment payments, spreading it out further and lowering the payment for the residents and the business owners and such. And then also the third thing was, as Mayor Pro Tem had indicated, was the interest rate. The charter puts a cap on the interest rate of 6%, and what we looked at doing was setting it at the current, as of the date, 10-year treasury note plus 1% for administration and such. That might save a little bit for the residents, 0.5% or 1%, every benefit's a benefit. But those are the things that we changed. The interest rate, we had it at 6%, a flat rate, because that's the top amount that the charter allows. Kim, is there anything you want to add?
So you touched on it a little bit, but we also went from having a flat per parcel equal split between all the properties to going based on the amount of frontage that they have on the street that's being worked on.
So it would in effect lower, like in some, like let's say Berry Street, that has they have some homes that are on 33 frontage foot, so they would actually see a reduction in how much they would pay. And there are some that have 80 to 100 feet, so there might be a little bit more there. And then there's a commercial
Yeah, there's
property there.
two that have actually 173 feet of frontage, so they would be paying a larger share based on their frontage.
So we took this proposal to the Public Service Committee and further hashed it out there. I'll let them speak to that, and they did recommend this to full council for consideration.
Kim, could you send the copy with the highlights to Katie for the minutes, please?
Sure.
Okay. Shannon, hopefully that will help you and anyone else who wants to see the changes. One other change that I don't believe was mentioned is that if you only have an egress, so your property address is not on this lot that is being assessed, but your only egress into your lot is from that street, you will pay a much smaller amount. I think it was
based on
$1,500.
Yeah, based on 16 and a half feet of frontage.
So the whole goal of this was to reduce the amount that each individual parcel pays. I'm not entirely satisfied with how that turned out, as we talked about, but there are several properties, residential properties on Berry, whose assessments were dropped to about $3,800. It actually increased the total revenue from the special assessments, so I would like public services, to continue finding ways to tweak this, because we have some still situations that are a little questionable. We'll have a property that's worth several $1 million that's paying 0.5% of their property value. And we're not allowed to base it solely on property value, but then we'll have residential properties that are paying 7-8+% of their property value. These changes sort of put that within tighter bounds, took out some of the extreme cases, but so yes, it's good work. I thank you for it, but I would like to see us continue to see what we can do to make this more equitable. Yes, Councilman Bruns.
If we pass these amendments, then presumably public services can take this out at its own leisure in the future, is that right?
Yes, and I think, we've already met since the last meeting to continue going over new ideas. I would really like to see some of these residential properties where their home is only worth, $80,000 to get that down to $3,000 or even $2,000 per parcel. And hopefully we'll get into a situation where we can eventually phase these out. Councilman Flynn.
I do not see, in paragraph 9 there where you say residential, commercial, industrial, what about churches and schools? Because Bailey School sits there on the corner of Berry Street, so how do we treat a school, or how would we treat a church if that were to come about?
Yes, the churches and schools are commercial under this.
Right. It's based on what they would be classified according to the General Property Tax Act.
Oh, okay.
If they were a for-profit property.
Okay, thank you.
We talked about trying to get clever to save, for smaller churches or something, but Kim thought that the best way to go was simply to use their tax ID. So it's just uniform. Again, this might present other complications, but from a legal perspective, it's probably the most sound way to go. Councilman Wolfram.
Are you suggesting that we pass this and then alter it later on, or that is continue to work on it? And if this improves things, then could we pass it now and then have further amendments?
We definitely could. Councilman Bentley.
Yes, I'd like to thank Mayor Pro Tem for initiating this and Kim for executing it and with the beautiful spreadsheets. And yes, I think it's a small step in the right direction. And one thing that motivated Mayor Pro Tem Palladino, I believe, was to reduce the caps for the residentials, which we didn't do this time, but we hope to do it soon, the next iteration. Right?
I would like to. It ended up generating, I was assuming that this would generate just about a net equivalent, right? So it would be, the cost would be spread out differently, but we'd have the same amount of money. Now we're talking about generating tens of thousands of dollars of new revenue that I think would give us the ability to lower the caps on some of the smaller residential properties. But this is what we have in front of us today, and probably for the next 3 special assessments, which we're about to set a public hearing for. So yes, we can adopt this and continue to move forward, or we can reject this and go to the old policy. I'm skeptical somewhat of whether the old policy, not skeptical, I think the old policy might be able to be challenged, because the charter says that it's supposed to be allocated your payment based on frontage or benefits. And a flat rate of $5,000, if you have 30 feet of frontage compared to an industrial park that has 300 feet, how is that benefit quite equitable? So I think we're closer to it. I would like to keep working through options though.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion on the floor to approve the new SAD policy from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Bentley. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Josh, real quick.
Yes, Councilman Flynn.
Just so we don't have to, according to my paperwork, it says that we're supposed to take a roll call vote. At least that's what's listed.
Very good. It would be something good to take a roll call vote on, definitely. Thank you, Councilman Flynn, I appreciate that.
Yes,
Katie, could I have a roll call vote,
Yes.
please?
Councilperson Morrissey.
Yes.
Soha. Stuchel.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
And Flynn.
Yes.
It's 8-0 approved. It's 3625 resolution.
Thank you, Katie, and I already said that, but we will update the minutes with the highlighted version so that you can see the changes. Okay, now we are setting a public hearing for Monroe Street. Kim?
All right, so at this point, we would just be setting a public hearing to consider the necessity of the project and decide whether or not you want to fund a portion or all of it by special assessment. So we're asking to have that public hearing set for March 3rd in order for us to be able to get bids out and get the project rolling for this summer.
Okay, we are just setting a public hearing today. Are there any questions or comments? Councilman Bruns.
If I recall, there was talk about an Arch Avenue special assessment as well. Is that just delayed or what's the?
That one will come at a future date. Kristen was working on a couple of things on that one, so she didn't have it quite prepared before she left for vacation.
Okay, thank you. Comments, questions from council?
What time? On the 3rd? Do we not also have a council meeting on the 3rd?
It's in the council meeting, it has
It's
its
in
own
the-
comment period,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, will that be our first public hearing with the new council? I believe so.
And there is a resolution attached, just defining the boundaries for the project and setting the public hearing.
Okay.
And the Berry Street also, or we're not there yet?
Not yet, that'll be a separate.
2 public hearings.
I make a motion then that we approve the Monroe Street Special Assessment District public hearing for March 3rd, 2025.
Motion to set the public hearing for March 3rd, 2025 for Monroe Street from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Morrissey. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Do we need a roll call vote for that one? No, just setting a public hearing. Okay, Berry Street, same thing. Setting a public hearing for that. Kim, anything to add?
Same thing, this is defining the district, setting the public hearing for March 3rd, and then, my cover sheet here gives you the total cost at $381,184 for that one.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Any comments or questions? Councilman Flynn?
Just real quick, I know this has nothing to do with setting the public hearing, but as I was reading through the charter and all of that, and maybe I misread it, but I know that at a meeting earlier, the residents of Berry Street, or many of the residents of Berry Street, signed a petition stating, we don't want this. But the way I read the charter was that each individual person is supposed to send us a letter or something. So does the petition then no longer count, I guess, for lack of a better word?
Yes, thank you, Councilman Flynn. I spoke with city staff about this earlier in the week, last week, and you are correct. So that petition is non-binding on council. They need to either send letters individually addressed to the council by the date of the public hearing or by the agenda?
Public hearing.
By the date of the public hearing. So they need to be with us by the public hearing on March 3rd, or they need to come in person to the public hearing to object. They need to be the property owner, not a tenant of the property, in order to object in writing or in person. Thank you for that clarification. So if anyone from Berry Street is listening, the petition is not valid to increase the council threshold to pass the special assessment to 7 votes. You need to come in person or bring a letter to protest that assessment.
And then in addition to that, I just wanted to clarify the process a little bit. So this first public hearing will be to decide whether or not to move forward with the project and to set it up for a special assessment. If that is approved at that meeting, then you will direct me to prepare the special assessment roll, and we will have another public hearing where those individual property owners will get notice of what their share will be, and they will have an opportunity to protest their individual amounts at that time.
So March 3rd to protest the project, to be determined to protest your amount.
Right, the special assessment amount for that property.
Okay, which is probably gonna be set by this new policy, so, well, it is now. So that should be forthcoming
Yes.
in a couple weeks here. Okay, anything to add? Yes, Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just so council's aware, if we do get the number of letters, council can still pass it with a supermajority, which is 7 votes. So we would have to have 7 of 8 of us to vote yes for that to pass, but we still have that autonomy if we're still in line.
Thank you, Councilman Soha.
Would it still be 7? Because I know at a 9-member council, it was 7-2, so it wouldn't be 8, or it wouldn't be 6 rather?
It is
Still be 7?
set by charter as 7 votes rather than a supermajority. Yes, thank you for that clarification, Councilman Flynn. Yes.
Also, just to mention, so we will be notifying all the property owners in writing of the special assessment district hearing or the public hearing. And we had to have the special assessment policy either updated or remain the same because we have to put that number in there that they could potentially reassess. And some who might have objected initially to the special assessment could be seeing their amounts go down, so they might change their mind, but they will all get noticed, and it will be in the paper.
It will, do we, in the letter, do you put the total amount
The total amount of the project?
of the project?
Yes.
The total amount per parcel?
Yeah.
And then, do you put the amount over 15 years with the new calculated interest rate?
So for that second public hearing, we will give them all that breakdown of
Okay,
exactly how
there's
much
no way
that
to have that for the first public hearing?
Probably not, I don't think I have time to get those all put together with all the information.
Okay. The reason that I voted for this policy is because it will change the average residence's yearly payment from about $675 to $450, depending on what the interest rate comes in at. So it's a pretty substantial reduction in monthly payment, yearly payment. And it would be good to maybe include that information, but if we can't have it precisely, then that's understandable.
I will have it definitely by the time we get to the meeting, I just don't know if I'll have it in time that's included with the letter.
Okay, very good, thank you, Kim. Anything else on Berry Street? Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Morrissey to set the public hearing for the Berry Street SAD for March 3rd, 2025. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We will move on to new business, letter D. Dial-a-ride fare increase. Mr. Blake, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager. Several weeks ago, we looked at, as we are preparing the state budget for Dial-a-ride, as we have still about 37 to 39% offset from fiscal year 24. We looked into doing another fare increase. That fare increase was sent to the local advisory committee. During the discussion with the local advisory committee, we proposed a $2.50 increase. The consensus when we came out of it was approval of $1.50 for adults, and $2.50 for seniors, children 5 to 11, and children to 4. One thing we've talked about before, Councilman Soha, we've talked about this briefly before. When this was proposed last year, there was a lot of outreach from the schools that theirs was going to go up so much higher because of the adult rate. It's something that's never been said, and it's something that the staff's always been done. It's been implemented years ago. Students, regardless of the age, if it's for student-related activities to and from school, they pay the senior and handicap rate. So I did notice that note on this agenda summary. I think we need to add this in the future to know that parents aren't going to be paying that, 17-year-old students are going to be paying that adult rate. They're going to be paying the student rate. So on the new rates schedule there, $1.50 for adults, 50 cents for senior, handicap, children, students, and then out of town, we should go up $1 and then $0.25. We do need to keep our adult rates. Our senior and handicap has to be half rates of a regular rate of whatever the adult is. And this new fare structure does show that. And this also went to the Public Service Committee in favor of the Public Service Committee. I would ask that this increase, if it is passed tonight, goes into effect July 1 of the new budget year, so it gives time to plan accordingly, and we can have correspondence with schools and parents and teachers and so forth. With that being said, I would ask for, with recommendation of the LEC Committee and Public Service Committee, for Council to approve the fare increase as presented, for effective date July 1st, 2025.
Thank you, Jason. Any comments or questions? Councilman Wolfram.
It says students to and from school. Does that mean that it's $2.50 for there and back, or is it $2.50 to and $2.50 from?
It's one way. It's to or from school.
To or from.
Yeah. So every fare, the way it's counted on the state side, a fare is just a one-way charge.
Okay. Because it says to and from school.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, to and from should be slash in there.
Thank you. Councilman Flynn.
Do we do a lot of out of town?
There's a fair number, yes.
How far out of town are we allowed to go?
So average about a mile. So the heading out of 99, heading south on 34, Dr. Jameson area, we go there. We go out to the rearing pond, so forth, to the church, heading towards Walmart, etc. About a mile within the service area.
So are we allowed to go to Meyer and then to the new Aldi once that's open?
Yes, because that actually is within the city limits.
Okay.
It's in our Act 50 or 427 agreement. It's within the city.
Okay.
Yep.
$4.25.
Councilman Stucci?
Thank you. I see our adults in town have $1.50 increase.
Yes.
Our adults out of town have $1 increase. Is there a reason?
So that was done that way, for the out-of-town. The adults aren't the most out that use the out-of-town rate. It's more as the seniors and the children with the school, Will Carlton, that use the out-of-town rate. The out-of-town for adults is very low, and we still had to keep that within reason where adults is half rate of seniors. So if we went up any more on the seniors, we would have to increase the adults as well.
Okay,
To make up for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, very good. Councilman Bentley?
Yes, I'm gonna vote yes, but not without bringing up the airport and the contrast that Shannon brought up earlier. And I've heard from everyone I've talked to that this increase, we're not putting $100,000 into that, right? But we're increasing the fares. And then the airport, anyway.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments, questions for Mr. Blake? Thank you. I was thinking about writing a letter and having council sign it if they were willing to our representative and saying this needs to be put higher in the budgetary priorities for the state. They're getting scraps
Yes,
for
sir.
public transportation that we have to provide by statute. They need to fully fund the things that they're requiring to be done in municipalities. Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I reached out to Congresswoman Warts and said that she should expect something from us, so I'd be willing to join you in that effort.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councilman Soha.
That'd be great.
Councilman Flynn.
Have we heard any more on the advertising side of the proposal to get people to advertise on our
So
buses?
we have reached out to about a page and a half of vendors. We have some people that's interested. What we ran into over the last month and a half, it was probably bad timing to reach out to everyone with the holiday. The most what we're getting is, hey, we're in our budget season as well, let's get back with us. So what we have instructed Ride Dispatch to do next week, they're going to be reaching out back to everyone of the, so going back to the offset, we've lost almost 10% funding in the last 2 years, so it's about $39,000 out of that the general fund needs to absorb. So that was some of this. But I would like to say the LAC, the biggest thing is we didn't want to make it up too high because we don't want to lose the ridership we already had. So we've gained 2,900 fares in the last year, even after we raised this 50 cents last year. We went up 2,900 fares. So we just want to be careful as we raise this up too, because we don't want to lose.
Yeah, maybe keep us updated after it's in effect for 3 months. If you see a substantial change in riders, please let us know so we can respond to the demand.
Yes, sir.
39,000, okay, yeah. There actually was lots of articles about this. Transportation committees writing letters to the state saying they cut like 45 million year over year from that fund. Now, it's not only dial, right? Tons of different services that state budget funds, but it took a substantial cut.
Yeah, this has affected multiple municipalities. There's actually an email chain with most municipalities that even the city's part of about trying to get more funding as well as going up to Lansing.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, council. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Stuchel. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
New business letter, what we got here? E, Police Department purchase of firearms. Chief Hefner, thank you.
Good evening. I made a request to the Public Safety Committee to expend funds out of the Public Safety Village Equipment Fund for the purchase of handguns to issue to our officers and replacement shotguns to replace our 27-year-old shotguns that the police department is currently carried in their vehicles. To give you a little history on this, and I will get into the safety reasons for doing this, the tactical reasons for doing this, and the liability reasons for doing this. It's been approximately 35 years since the police department has furnished handguns to its officers. I'm not aware of any other organization in the city of Hillsdale that doesn't furnish necessary equipment to their employees and require them to furnish their own, especially something that's considered a high dollar, high liability, necessary piece of equipment. We've all been buying our own for 35 years. It has become a little bit of a hardship for our newer employees, our younger employees, based on inflation and what they're getting for wages. We have been discussing this for about 3 or 4 years, moving to this. There were reasons why we, I don't want to say hesitated, but let it go for just a little bit. Once I took over as being chief, the officers were actually allowed to carry 3 different calibers of handguns in our department. So there were numerous makes and models, multiple calibers. We had to buy all of those caliber of ammunition for training purposes. When there are shortages or big military events going in, anywhere in the world that our military is involved in the ammunition, there are shortages because they are making the ammunition, the specific caliber for the military, so everything else gets slowed down. We've waited 18 months for ammunition before, so after I become chief, a few years after into that, I reduced our department to go down to a single caliber, that being 40 caliber. So some people had to replace their handguns at that point in time. And so then we only had to buy 1 caliber of ammunition, and most of the people kind of went to the same make gun. Not everybody, but if we're going to make people buy their own high dollar item, I don't think we should necessarily tell them what they have to buy. So we kind of limited it by controlling the caliber and stuff, and there were definitely financial reasons for the city to do that. There has been, I don't want to say a trend, when police departments first went to semi-autos, they carried 9 millimeters. It was determined over a few years that bullet structure was not ideal for what law enforcement needs it to do. A lot of departments then moved to 40 calibers, 45 calibers, 10 millimeters. Since then, over the years, bullet design has increased to where there's not a lot of difference ballistically between a 9 millimeter and a 40 caliber. There's been changes in the powder. I've read a lot of publication articles about this, and now a lot of major departments have gone back to 9 millimeters, including big departments here in the state of Michigan, including the state police, who does extensive research on everything they utilize. So we made the determination to go back to 9 millimeter. I do believe our department should be furnishing this piece of equipment to their officers. Most departments do. And then we looked at it from an officer safety standpoint, and those points are, and this involved the Public Safety Committee also, those points are being, if I had to grab my partner's magazine, will it fit into my gun? If I have to utilize their gun, will I know how that firearm system operates based on make and model? And then again, the liability to the city and to the officers, if they do discharge their weapon, where did that round go? What did that round potentially hit? So to minimize that, we have identified the Glock Model 47, which comes with an MOS system. That's a modular optical sight, a red dot sight on top of it. With that, you have to replace the iron sights, what they call suppressor height sights. So if something happens to your red dot sight, you can still see through and have iron sights. We would be purchasing all the same make, model, and caliber. So if you had to use somebody else's magazine that's going into your gun, if you had to use their gun for whatever reason, you know exactly how it functions and operates. Because some firearms have the cocking levers, other have manual safeties. We want to eliminate all of that for a safety standpoint for our officers. The modular optical sight, or red dot sight is what a lot of people refer to that, has many safety values to the officers, because you can keep, when you're using the red dot sight, you keep both eyes open, so you have a lot of situational awareness where you're in a room, you're moving through doorways, hallways, or whatever, by being able to keep both eyes open. Once they're sighted in, whatever that dot is on, that's where your round is going. So if your officer is injured and they have to shoot one-handed or with their weak hand, if they can see the dot, whatever that dot is on, that's where the round's going. So that's where your big officer safety values come in. That's where your liability is decreased, if you will. We don't want any errant or stray rounds. We're getting more and more threats to our schools. I don't want to have to respond to an active shooter thing. Our department is ready to do so. We've got to make sure our officers are equipped with the best equipment to do that. And we can no longer say an officer is not going to get shot in Hillsdale County. So we've identified this weapon based on the criteria we believe to be very important and that the Public Safety Committee feels is very important. And with identifying that weapon, and the last thing we had to look at, because we've talked at 2 different Public Safety Committee meetings about this, because there's 2 models that operate on this system that are made by Glock, and we wanted to make sure we didn't have to buy both models, that based on, if somebody's hand wasn't going to fit this model, we were going to have to buy a different model. So we did a little bit more research. Both those model Glocks are on the identical frame, meaning they're the exact same height, exact same distance from the back strap to the trigger, and from that grip to the top of the slide. It's all the exact same distance, same magazine capacity. The only difference is one is a 1/2 inch longer barrel, which makes no difference in use or function. We're going with the Model 47 is the one with a 1/2 inch longer barrel. So the quote we have from CMP is Glock sets their prices for retail to the regular consumer. They set the price for law enforcement officers doing an officer purchase through a certified retailer that provides for law enforcement equipment, and then they set a department price. So there's no state purchasing. Glock sets these prices. So this would be a department purchase, which would be the least costly, and these would be department owned. We have Glock armors. We will be able to maintain them, take care of them, and them all being identical systems. We've gone over the benefits of that. So the quote that you have in the packet for 16 handguns with an MOS system, all factory made, factory mounted, coming directly from Glock. 16 holsters to fit that weapon. We've put in for 5 new shotguns. Our current shotguns are 27 years old. Been riding in the gun racks in the cars for that long. Been used at the range multiple times a year. That time we've been experiencing malfunctions with them at the range over the last several years. It's time. They got to go down the road. So 5 replacement shotguns. And on page 2, there's the quote price for all that. On page 2 is the state purchasing contract for ammunition. We've included in my request for the expenditure for the practice ammo to transition to this weapon and caliber. 6,000 rounds for the department. They'll probably have to go everybody to the range at least 2 or 3 times to go through different drills to make sure everybody's up to speed on it. Because shooting with an optical sight and both eyes open is new to most people. So we got to make sure everybody's comfortable with that. And that duty ammunition to issue to everybody to carry after everybody's ready through the transition training. And the total for all of that is $23,546.14. Again, that's from the Public Safety Equipment, Vehicle, and Building Maintenance Fund. The funds are in there. This was taken to the Public Safety Committee, who approved moving it to the school council.
Thank you very much. Any comments, any questions for the chief? Anything from our public safety members? Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm all in favor of this. When I found out that our officers were not provided the necessary handguns, Chief and I have been discussing this for some time now, and he came up with this plan. I think it's solid. It comes out of the public safety knowledge, so it's not affecting the general fund whatsoever, and there's more than enough money to cover it, so appreciate the work on this, Chief.
Thank you, Councilman Soha. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Do I have a motion? Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Stuchel to approve the firearm and shotgun purchases as well as ammunition and other attachments and equipment for $23,546.14. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Should we take a roll call on that, spending of $23,000? Roll call vote.
Councilperson Solma?
Yes.
Stuchel?
Yes.
Wolfram?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Havila?
Yes.
Councilperson Medley?
Yes.
Bruns?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
And Morrissey?
Yes.
It's approved.
Thank you, Katie. Okay. We will move on to miscellaneous reports. No proclamations. We have 3 appointments for the Officers' Compensation Committee: Penny Swan, Bill Mullally, and Russell Richardson. They are all either currently serving on a board or committee or have served on a board or committee, I believe. Do we want to approve them as a group or individually?
I move to approve all 3 unless council.
Okay. 1 second, Councilman Bentley. Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Morrissey to approve all 3 candidates to the Officers' Compensation Committee. Further discussion, Councilman Bentley.
I don't know these people personally, but I think I'm aware that one of them has called members of this council Nazis. So if they're
No, I've never.
compensation board, that seems worth noting.
Well, I had 5 applications, and we need to call it quickly. We're supposed to call it by statute. And any recommendations are simply recommendations to the council. We can accept or reject them, and they won't affect us this term. Any other comments or questions?
Can I defend myself?
No, I don't think so. I don't, do we want to? Okay. If council, well, yeah, I guess we have had speak. No, what am I saying? We've definitely had people speak during yeah, no, I'm sorry, Penny, yeah.
I have never, ever called any individual an Nazi. So, if you show me where I said it,
If I'm wrong, I retract.
yeah. I've said we've done Nazi-like things here, but I've never called any individual Nazi.
Have fun looking through Facebook for those ones, okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We have 1 reappointment. Dennis Wainscott, he deserves our highest praise, stepping up. This man is a fighter. My goodness, folks. Please apply for the boards and commissions. Dennis is going through health issues. I don't think this is private. But he is willing to do this for us, so really, if you see him, give him thanks. Okay, so Dennis Wainscott for Board of Review. He's done, I think, 2 terms on Board of Review. And a reminder, we still need 2 alternates for the Board of Review.
I make a motion motion that we accept the reappointment of Dennis Winscott.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Soha to reappoint Dennis Wainscott to the Board of Review. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We will move into general public comment. Yes, is that it? Am I missing something? No, others no. Okay. The podium is open. You may speak on anything you desire.
Guess you just gave me my own seat. First of all, I want to say thank you for passing, for the chief getting new guns, their gun owners, and as a citizen, I appreciate that they're gonna have, everything he said was so correct. As a gun user, having to know the gun you're using, picking up, grabbing, great. So thank you for that. I know we're losing a lot of money in Hillsdale, but do you realize that every time Hillsdale College buys a piece of property, we lose revenue? And in the last year, they bought 4 more. Just the old current office solutions, we lost $7,000 in revenue right there, just on one block. So it's really hard for us citizens to keep picking up the slack when the college is buying up property, and every time they buy a piece of property, we lose revenue. So it's not us everyday citizens doing that, it's because the college is buying up property and they have a right to do that. But at the same time, revenue is being lost because of that issue. And after I sent you that spreadsheet and I did a little research, I think we need to do something about those pavilions. It's pretty bad that when I want to go out to rent a pavilion to have a birthday party, I have to pay $100 just to have a birthday party in a pavilion. And I know it comes with electricity and water, but again, those T-hangers, they do come with electricity also. I don't know about water, but we are paying an electric bill every time they turn on their lights, and you can't tell me it's gonna cost more than a person playing a little bit of music or plugging in a crock pot at a pavilion. But we're paying to get into the park, paying to use our beach, we're paying to dock our boats, and now we're paying $100. I could not believe that. When I had a birthday party there years ago, it was $25 to go and rent the pavilion to have a birthday party, and now it's $100. I know somebody who's getting married over at Stocks Park, $600 because it's an event. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, just really look at that spreadsheet I sent you guys. It is crazy about what we're paying just for that, and I highlighted it in yellow. And I put it on Facebook and hot debates and everything else, so everybody knows it's out there. But come on, people, you guys have got to fix that. But you're only doing $150 on a T-hanger. And why didn't you guys split the difference and at least say $175? I wanted to raise my hand and say, let's go in the middle, people. Thanks.
Thank you, Shannon.
I'd like to speak on some of the questions the council asks. If they would read the packets for all of the committees and boards and everything, they'd find their answers in there, which tells me they're not really representing the people that they ran for to represent them. All you gotta do is read all that information. It's like the Economic Development Commission, all that's in their packet. All you gotta do is read it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Thank you very much. I will close the podium. I appreciate it. City Manager's report, Mr. Mackey.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just a few things to mention. First, I'm gonna have Jason come up and talk about the snow pile removal downtown. You'll be seeing that, and you might get calls on that in the next couple of days.
Yes, thank you, City Manager. DPS has scheduled tomorrow morning at 3 o'clock, and to proceed into Wednesday, also at 3 o'clock, to pile the snow in the all downtown, Highway, McCollum, Bacon, North Street, around City Hall here. We did put an email out to the downtown businesses today, to help get the cars removed, for that. So that being said, if everything goes good, we should be hauling snow out of the downtown area. We did receive, approval from MDOT to haul from the MDOT highway, which they reimbursed at 45%. That being done, we should be Thursday, Friday hauling snow, and then next week it's supposed to warm up. So we will see what we can get done this week. Go ahead.
We used to do this, didn't we?
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, the big giant piles of snow right down the yellow line, and then you'd come by and scoop it all up and haul it away. Was there a reason we went away from that?
So the couple issues, staff levels over the years definitely went down on that. To put the piles in the middle of the road is definitely a traffic hazard. You have people trying to cross, they still need to go down to the crosswalk to cross, which we know it don't happen on that. So the safest place is to put it to the curb so we can come back later and pick it up. And one thing I would like to say is that we've been pretty lucky over the last 3 years. We haven't had to haul pile snow for the last 3 years. This year has definitely been a bigger one than we've been used to as the norm, if you will. Last year, we went out and did winter maintenance 16 times. The year before was 17 times. This year already to date, we're at 31. So we're almost double. Our salt use is also almost double this year. It's not just the big storms we're having. We've had a lot of precipitation, freeze precipitation, and so forth. So this year, we're back to what I call the norm, if we will. But back 3 or 4 years ago, we would pile and haul snow 3 or 4 times a year. So that is something we'll get back at.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Jason?
Very good.
Thank you.
Then I'll continue. Also, just for the council and the residents paying attention, the petition date for to submit your petitions for the mayoral election in August, the date on that is April 22nd at 4 p.m. or by 4 p.m. to get your petitions in with your 25 signatures for the vacant mayoral spot. Second, as Ms. Gaynor had brought up about the road diet discussion at the beginning, so that was not put on the agenda this time because the discussion that council was having was about whether we needed to approve the grant application being submitted. And actually, we did some research on it, and it was something that the council had approved back in June of 2024. So it was several months ago, and given it had occurred last summer, no one really remembered it during the discussion of council. So that was the council and Mayor Pro Tem were made aware of that, and so we will be submitting the grant application. And once we actually have the updated plans available, there will be subsequent public meeting to discuss them and further discussion in front of the council. But we did not meet on this agenda, so that's why it wasn't put on.
Do you know the approval date will be?
Say that again?
The approval date? The state will either grant it or deny it?
We do not, but typically it would probably be around the fall. And the state is notorious for kicking them back depending on how many applications they receive. So as soon as we find out, we will let everyone know. Moving forward with that.
Councilman Bentley?
Yes.
Sorry. Yes. We did have a public meeting at the library though, and there was a lot of feedback. And then last week we discussed having a public hearing, and we also were told that they would present the plan to us, which, where's that at? And then I still would like to call a public hearing. No, I know, and I know the staff has the authority to apply for the grant. Well, we haven't yet.
So the plan is not complete yet. We will be submitting the grant application on the plan that is complete, but it's under the pretense that it can be modified. So once the updates are made to the plan, then we will have another public hearing and probably we'll come back to council for further discussion. So it's just not done yet for us to have that public hearing.
Do we expect it on this 3rd or whatever? Their latest secret plans.
I don't know when we'll have it. I suspect it might be in the month of March is when we should have it, because we have planning consultants we work with, and so, it takes more time than just a couple of weeks.
So what I'm trying to voice is the citizens' frustration with the secret consultations with the experts when, as far as I'm concerned, they spoke loud and clear that they don't want the bike lanes. And yet we are going to plow ahead because we can.
No one said we were plowing ahead. They are redesigning the plan based on the comments that were made at the public hearing. The updated plan is not done yet to re-present to the public and to the council. As soon as we get that, hopefully it will be in next month, then we'll bring it back for further discussion and further refinement.
And in the meantime, it will go on to MDOT for their approval. But you're saying it can be adjusted even after MDOT gets it?
The grant application, yes, because, and that was stated at the public hearing, that the one at the library, is that there's some flexibility there.
Okay, I'll let it go for now, but again, we who oppose the project feel like we're being jerked around because there's some flexibility and the inertia of the project seems to be out of the citizens' ability to be heard.
Welcome to the
So that's my concern, but we will revisit it.
Yes, we will revisit.
Will the new plans be presented to council before, I know the council has already authorized the city to apply for the grant, but will we see the new plans before the application is submitted?
No. Because the grant application has to be submitted before those plans are probably going to be done. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear that in all of that.
So, yes, so the
So
grant
everyone else is
application is supposed to be submitted around the end of this month. The plan most likely will not be done.
We'll take another one. Let's see. Okay.
So, once we get the plan, then we'll present it to council and the public and get further comments to refine it further and take that back to the grant committee that it goes to.
Okay, so we're gonna have 6 months before the money actually comes through. Between the time the plans are finalized, the application is submitted, or the plans are re-proposed, and when we actually move forward with the project in the fall, if it's approved.
Correct, and the project won't move forward in the fall. I think it's scheduled for next year, is that right, Jason?
2027.
27, so we have.
But we will know whether we have the money. Okay, I'm just not, if people are hearing this at home, I feel like they might have heard that everything is set and we're moving forward. No. The application will be submitted this month or early next month. The plans will be re-proposed in about a month. We will know whether we got the money in the fall. If that is then approved, we will do it in 2027. Okay, lots of time here.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
No, I'm sorry, but is it your opinion, is it the understanding that we will only vote one last time in the fall after the grant is approved and all of the bells and whistles are on? Because my concern is that without a vote, which you don't need, it has an inevitable feel to it, like the grant's coming through, and the feedback, like when can we reject it? Because if we have a big public hearing, and the people reject it, and nobody hears it, then what?
There will be another vote in the fall to move forward with the project. We have applied for the application. You and Councilman Flynn and Councilman Bruns didn't vote on that. We've only applied for it. There will be a vote in the fall on the and I assume these plans will be re-proposed in March, and then we can have a public hearing and then re-propose them, and then another one. There could be, I think there could be multiple rounds of review here, right?
Yes, that is correct. So we have plenty of time.
But with the review and the feedback, when and how? Because we just did that. The people will get tired and cynical, be jerked around, and they won't show up, and then there's just one more vote, and like I'd like to vote on interim plans, but there's no way to do that, or get involved, or see what they are.
If it comes forward in March in about 2 meetings, right, 2 to 3 meetings, is that what I'm hearing? It comes forward in 2 to 3 meetings, and we get the plan, and you and 4 of us say, I will vote no on that in the fall, if that is what comes before me in the fall. I think staff will either get that message and say, okay, we're done with it, or they'll say, okay, what do you want? What can we repropose? So us signaling the way that we're gonna vote in the future is a way to get the staff at MDOT to reconsider the plans, right? Now, if the majority sees the new plan in March and says, we want that, then yeah, that's it.
If we are still an 8-person council when the vote comes, and it's 4-4,
Fails.
It does. Then the motion fails.
okay.
Of course, all of this is moot if we don't get the grant.
Yes.
That's one of the things you gotta remember, is that we're just applying for a grant. If we don't get it, we don't do it, regardless of what staff draws up. No money, no project. It's that simple.
Right, correct. Well, is the restriping is based on the grant, right?
Well, the road itself is going to be surface.
Right, regardless.
So, yes.
Yes, Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just to speak to this point, I spoke with our neighbor city manager, Jeff Gray, this week because the city of Jonesville is going through a road diet on 12. I'm not sure if it's this year or next year. So they're going actually from 5 to 3. The business owners brought it before the city because they wanted to see traffic slowed down. Mr. Gray told me that one of the business owners called a number of businesses in Tecumseh because Tecumseh just did a road diet and they're in our same district. They're the only city recently that's done a road diet in our district. What Mr. Gray reported to me was that the business owners without fail responded to the business owner in Jonesville that they wish they would have done it sooner. Mr. Gray also told me that not one road diet has been restriped back to the original plans in the state since it's been done. They've all been well received. And Mr. Gray also said that with some negative feedback, they are going to have bike lanes down the side of the road. In the state's eyes, that was a very positive thing, and the state provided the city of Jonesville an $870,000 grant, give or take, to do some beautification of the sidewalks and the rest of the streets in downtown that the city would not have received if they failed to put little bicycles in the stripes of the road. I don't understand why that's such a big deal. If nobody uses them, nobody uses them. If we're gonna get some more money from the state, I don't understand why that's like the stopping point. It seems silly to me, it just seems silly to me. And like I said, I think the road diet is a favorable thing for the city. I'll vote for it if it has the applicable things that I think are necessary for maintaining traffic and everything with or without those silly bike lanes. I do think they're silly. I don't think they'll be used, but if it means we might get an $870,000 grant to beautify our sidewalks from the state if we apply for different grants, if those things are possible in the future because we have those. It's just something to consider. I wanted to bring it to council's attention.
Thank you, Councilman Soha. Okay, I think we're still in the manager's report. Any other items here or any further comments on that?
No, I'll end it there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. I believe that's it. Council comment? Yes, Councilman Soha.
So I did a adjustment for inflation. I went to one of the government websites. I don't remember which one because I closed it. But on January 2008, it's $893,718.67, which was our budget for roads that year, according to the spreadsheet that was in our packet today. In January of 2025, that'd be $1,345,027.97 adjusted for inflation. So according to that, we're about $400,000 behind, even with our new tax rate, just FYI.
Yeah, thank you. Very good. Councilman Flynn?
Just a couple things. Speaking of streets, I talked with our engineer, and I would like to throw it out there that if we're going to continue to do special assessment districts, which it looks like for the near future, it would be nice if we could print up a list somehow of here are the streets we'd like to see done in the next 5 years. Then, if you see your street 3-4 years down the road is going to be done, you can start to save a little bit, like you save for a roof, like you save for a furnace, you know, knowing, well, they're gonna do my street, but instead of getting a letter and going, oh, all of a sudden this year's my year and I need $5 grand or 10 grand, if I know 5 years out that I need $5 grand, then maybe I can squirrel some away and have that saved, and it's not gonna be as big of a bite as it could be. So if there's a way, and I know she said she was looking at doing that, but if there's a way where we could say, okay, here are the streets we're looking at in the next 5 years, you know, then those people could plan accordingly. Secondly, I noticed in the Collegian that you had mentioned in a story regarding city water and things of that nature, and I know that's one of your projects this year. And you quoted a bunch of stuff from the BPU and different rates and different numbers and stuff. I'm assuming that if that comes to pass, that will be a council vote to eliminate things or change things. Is there a way then that all of us, and I'll ask the BPU guy, is there a way that all of us could like maybe go down to the wastewater plant someday and then have a fact-finding day or something, so we can all just kind of see what Josh is talking about?
Yes.
Well, yeah, not tomorrow.
I emailed Director Geyer about this last week, and he actually said not this week because of all the freezing.
Right.
And they need to be out there on demand. But he said the week after most likely, and he said bring council along. I don't know if we should do it in one trip. We might need to schedule multiple for all of our schedules, but I think that would be a great idea. He said no one in his tenure from council has ever been out there, so I think it would be a great show for all of us to go and see how they do their work, as well as all the city
I was
departments.
gonna say, I think it would be, because most of us have gone through the Kiefer to see how that's coming. We should go to the airport, we should go out to the street department, we should all go, because we're all making these decisions, and not that I don't trust you, but, just to kind of take the word of one person, that, hey, this is what's happening, and we all go, oh, okay, it's sort of like what Mr. Bent was saying, we should make up our own minds, so if we can all go to these different places when things have come up and see those T-hangers, for example, and see the Kiefer and see all of this stuff, then all of us have an opportunity to go, oh, okay, now I understand.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Councilman Flynn. Any other council comments? Councilman Bentley.
I think this is for the attorney. as far as the mayoral race, is it the case that, whether or not, Mayor Pro Tem Palladino runs and loses or doesn't run, with the new mayor, will he remain the Mayor Pro Tem?
No.
If he's not the mayor?
No.
Or do we know?
Yes, until there was, would be another organizational meeting where you selected something else. Yeah, so he would serve, assuming that he didn't run for mayor, or he ran for mayor and did not win, he would still be mayor pro tem. You voted for him to serve that office.
But you understand why I asked, because when we took our seats, that was the first order of business is to, so I wonder if that would be the first order of business when we have a new mayor, or he will just still say it as by default, or does he have a right to it? Like how
So that's different than when you had the election where you had the regular election with all of the council members who were elected to their various positions, right? So this is just a mayoral election, so no, you wouldn't vote again for Mayor Pro Tem unless that position was vacated because the current Mayor Pro Tem became the mayor.
Thank you, I just wanted to clarify, thanks.
Oddly enough, I don't even know if there's a provision to hold a new Mayor Pro Tem election if the Mayor Pro Tem resigns. It says only after the regular election. So yeah, I guess you just have to designate at the beginning of each meeting who's the Mayor Pro Tem under the rules of procedure, I
Actually,
think.
that's exactly what you
Yeah.
do. You don't even, they're not the Mayor Pro Tem, they're just the acting mayor for purposes of that meeting.
Yeah. Another thing that we should probably add, if the Mayor Pro Tem seat is vacated, we might as well just hold a new election, but that's charter reform stuff for another day. Any other council comments? I am working on charter reform. I believe the attorney is looking it over as well. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Soha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.